We are in our final 10 minutes, I promise. Hope you'll stick around as we close out this We the People convention. And to do so, I want to remind us in about 2 minutes where this rebellion began. And let's play the video. This is a song which is hopefully becoming familiar to a lot of you by now. But join with us as we close out this convention. And the sound is coming. Do we have some sound?
Love for our country, to honor our grannies and sons. We walk for an end to corruption. To the will of the people be done. We walk with love for our country, to honor our grannies and sons. We walk for an end to corruption. To the will of the people be done. We walk with love for our country, to honor our grannies and sons. We walk for an end to corruption, to the will of the people.
Marianne Williamson reminded us of our roots, of where we come from. And here in New Hampshire, we know that 240 years ago, New Hampshire adopted the first constitution of any American Commonwealth in January of 1776, 6 months before the signing of the Declaration of Independence at Philadelphia. That constitution established a representative system of government and helped to pave the way to the American Revolution. In the final New Hampshire Constitution, Article 10 stated that government being instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the whole community, and not for the private interests or emolument of any one man, family, or class of men. Therefore, whenever the ends of government are perverted and public liberty manifestly endangered, and all other means of redress are ineffectual, the people, we the people, may, and of right ought to, reform the old or establish a new government. 100 years ago, New Hampshire held the first presidential primary. Reporting in 1916, the Boston Herald noted that when the first direct primary law was enacted in New Hampshire, the idea of the primary was to give everybody an equal chance, and the poor man a better chance even than everybody else. Bosses were to be eliminated by a process of political strangulation, and the old convention system would pass away and carry with it all the bribery, proxy swapping, yellow ward dog corruption and injustice that existed in the nightmare of a colony of summer border reformers who at that particular time infected the scenic fringes of the state 100 years ago. 17 years ago, as we've been reminded this weekend, a little old grandmother and great-grandmother of 16 who had arthritis and emphysema, a bad back, began an unlikely journey from Pasadena, California to Washington, D.C. because she saw that her country's system of government had strayed far from the ideals on which it was founded. She saw a country where legislation was being bought and sold, and she knew that that was wrong. When people tried to tell her that she was powerless to stop this corruption, she knew that they were wrong. Through a year and a half, 3,200 miles, 4 pairs of sneakers, reaching her 90th birthday, Doris Granny D. Haddock braved every conceivable hardship, snow and ice and rain and scorching sun, and ended in Washington, D.C. And when she ascended the Capitol steps with senators at either side, she invoked the brave spirits of Arlington Cemetery, where she had begun her final day's walk, by asking, "Did you, brave spirits, give your laws so that we could stand together as free and equal citizens? Or did you give your lives so that laws could be sold to the highest bidder, turning this temple of our fair republic into a bawdy house where anything and everything is done for a price?" 2 years ago, inspired by Granny D, a group of citizen rebels set out from Dixville Notch in sub-zero temperature and began the first New Hampshire Rebellion march in the footsteps of Granny D. Since then, we've marched some 30,000 miles collectively, many of you logging your own miles in freezing cold, minus 38 degrees, to the hot summer sun on July 4th this past year and the year before, because we are committed to continuing this march for justice, because, as Dr. Martin Luther King reminded us, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it does bend toward justice. As we bring this We the People convention to a close, we want to ask three things of you. First is the most basic. We must all vote. And we must cast informed votes. And if you, like me, are a reform voter, I won't tell you for whom to vote, but I will ask you to cast an informed vote. Check out fightbigmoney.com/scorecard and look at the positions the candidates have taken and draw your conclusions. But please become a reform voter. We must elect a president, and New Hampshire has our historic opportunity and responsibility this coming Tuesday, 2 days from today, to vote for a reformer. In September, we'll have our state primary elections, and we heard this weekend from candidates for governor and for Congress, and there are many others running for representative and Senate and executive council. We must make them into reform candidates by showing them that we are reform voters. So you must, my friends, vote on Tuesday and vote in September and vote in November to elect a president in Congress who will fix this corrupt system with our help, number one. Number two, this walk must continue. We've heard the impassioned words of our friend Kai Newkirk, who will be leading with many of you, with the New Hampshire Rebellion, with dozens of organizations from around the country, the next Rebellion Walk from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. in April. If you can get on the bus, New Hampshire Rebellion will be helping to organize people from this part of the world. If you can head down to Philly, it won't be quite as cold as Dixville Notch. Please continue this walk. And if you're willing to go that extra mile, that extra measure of devotion, and even risk arrest, please do that as well. Join us as the rebellion continues in Philly on to Washington for a week of action in Washington. And needless to say, please continue the walk here in New Hampshire. We don't have time to give the full strategic plan for the New Hampshire Rebellion over the next year, and it isn't entirely finished. We've been a little bit focused on the event at hand over the last few weeks. But the rebellion continues because it must continue, because we haven't finished this fight. And there are critical races here in New Hampshire. A very competitive U.S. Senate race, one of the most competitive in the country. Competitive districts, District 1 Congress races and District 2 for Congress. An open gubernatorial race, Executive Council, State Senate, State Representative. New Hampshire Rebellion will continue to do what we've been doing these last 2 years, to walk here in New Hampshire, to bring awareness to this issue, and to go to the presidential candidates if they return, and I think they might in the fall, where we are a swing state, but especially to go to the Senate and congressional candidates and the state candidates to ask them to sign on to the We the People reform agenda. And so the many people who have been bird dogging already, we hope you will continue to help us continue this movement in New Hampshire and to set the table for actually passing these reforms starting this year in the current legislative session, and we heard from state leaders about specific bills, hearings coming up this Wednesday and beyond where we can continue to influence the debate. We'll be back in town meetings this spring with another 30-odd towns, hopefully taking us above 100 New Hampshire towns that have called for a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. Taking legislative actions now and getting ready after the next election to take bold legislative actions here in New Hampshire to adopt this We the People agenda, the reforms that have been talked about today. So we need you to continue walking with us, the New Hampshire Rebellion and our parent organization, Open Democracy, over the next year and beyond. And to take one small step in that direction, we have volunteers around the hall with postcards. Our Walk the Talk postcards and our Raise Your Hand for Reform postcard. Please take one of them and take a pen, and if you would, hang around for another 5 minutes and write a little message to a friend, to a family member, someone in New Hampshire or someone beyond. Tell them about this Democracy Spring that's happening and the Democracy Spring website. Tell them about the rebellion here in New Hampshire that will continue. And if you know their address or if you've got it on your phone, put in their address and drop the addressed postcard in one of our rebel hats there by the door, and we will put a stamp on it and mail it for you. Right now, you can spread this message beyond this tent. So please, if you've got a couple minutes, write a little postcard to a friend, put their name and address on, and we'll send it for you, or take it home and do send it in tomorrow's mail if you would. Now, finally, this tent wouldn't be standing, it wouldn't be heated, it wouldn't be lit without some amazing people. And I couldn't possibly do justice to them at this moment, but I hope you'll join me in thanking the members of my team. I have the great good fortune of being simply the leader of an amazing team of people who are part of Open Democracy and the New Hampshire Rebellion, our staff, and dozens more people in vests who have been volunteering from Thursday, 7 a.m. when we started putting up this tent and who will be sticking around to help us take it down. Can I ask the members of our team, our Deputy Director, Brian Beal, come on up, please. Our Communications Manager, Zanny Brown, and leader of many walks, Liz Yagabuchi, our media specialist, Taisuke Iwazaki, our amazing associate, come on up to the stage. If we can get Brian Tilton out from behind the camera, our Republican Outreach Coordinator. Is Richard Polonsky in the house, our Outreach Coordinator? Our dear friend Beth Grunwald couldn't be with us this weekend, but put in tons of hours to get us here. These folks have been working day and night, weekends, to make this convention happen. I've had the great privilege of working with them as a team. And can I ask the folks in vests who've been volunteering, or if you took off your vest but you've been volunteering this weekend, I see Dusty, I see Mary and Jake Redway, I see Corinne. Come on up, please. Doreen, oh my goodness, Doreen Demaray, come on up, for goodness sake, she's been feeding us. How could I possibly forget? I think we all agree that these people deserve, at a minimum, a little piece of maple sugar. So once again, we hope this is not the end of anything, but the beginning, the next wave of action, because we the people, though those words were penned some 250 years ago, we the people must stay vibrant, and it will only stay vibrant when we, as the people, make it so. So thank you for being here this weekend. Thank you for being part of this movement, and let us continue to build this movement and give hope, not just to the folks in this tent, not just to our next president and Congress to actually act on we the people, but to all of those people who couldn't imagine themselves having a voice in politics, who maybe live a couple blocks from here in one of the Manchester shelters and have never felt that they belonged in a political tent or at a political rally. but people who deserve a voice, because we all deserve a voice, and who have lost that voice or maybe never found it at all. Let us take this message out. Let us give hope to our fellow citizens, and let us truly inhabit we the people so that we can restore this democracy that we love. Thank you for being here. Stick around, have some food, mingle, meet folks, fill out those postcards if you would, and Godspeed. Let's continue this movement.